What's up, guys? JC with Big Game Real Estate. I got some questions on my last video about development and when we're repositioning properties and adding a building to a site, what does that entail? What does it take to put a new building up? Who do you need to speak to? How do you go about it? So today's video is going to be a little bit about not so much how to do it because your professionals are going to do that, but it's going to be about which professionals you're going to need to get in contact with. So the first thing, doesn't matter what property, what asset class it is, office, retail, industrial, multifamily, you're going to need to have a land use attorney. Okay, a land use attorney's primary function is really to give you advice on what can be done with the property. Again, just because we think it can be done doesn't mean it can. So before you go out and make that deal, before you go out and buy that shopping center for, what may be a market price or even a little high price, knowing you have an idea, you want to get in touch with a land use attorney, and you should have a land use attorney that you're familiar with to run it by him on that. Okay. In addition to that, of course, you're going to have an architect. Okay, an architect is obviously going to design the building. Again, this is if you're purchasing the building. All right, if you're doing something where we discussed a tenant and you're going to ground lease something and you're going to allow the tenant to build the building, then you don't need these things. But if you're going to go ahead and add a structure, you're going to need this list of professionals. So we have a land use attorney, we have an architect. You're going to have a civil and a structural engineer. Obviously, these guys are the folks who are designing your building. They're making sure the soil underneath can support the building. This becomes an issue sometimes in areas of wetlands where we know we can't build on, or depending on the size of the building. If you're building a fast food style restaurant, or if you're putting a small structure, it may not be a big deal. But if you're adding a substantially large structure, like maybe you purchased acres and you're going to add a warehouse, you're going to want to know what the soil can do. And that is going to come with a geotechnical survey. Geotechnical survey, again, it's just that. Tells you what that ground can support. It's the geotechnics of the soil. How high can we go? How much weight can be on the soil before things will either start to sink or shift and obviously cause extensive damage. So again, land use attorney. Obviously you need a commercial real estate attorney, but we know we have that already. We need a structural and civil engineer. Okay, these are the guys that are going to be going to the town meetings with you. The architect is going to design the building. The engineers are going to make sure that it's in compliance with the town and the codes. And this is going to, again, you're going to have to go through all of this along with your geotechnical studies, and you're going to have to present this to the town, even if it is an as of right use. An as of right use meaning, hey, this is a industrial zone and I'm going to check my setbacks to the property. I know I can put a 10,000 square foot building. Or hey, this is zone retail and I know I'm going to put another retail structure. I know I have room. You still have to go in front of your town, your municipality, and present the idea to ensure that it's within there. They approve it. Everything's got to, you're using professionals that are to code. Their designs are to code. If you're doing multifamily, or you're building an apartment building, they're going to look at things like density. They're going to have a parking ratio requirement. You may have, for example, a one bedroom apartment. You may need to have 1.5 cars of parking. I know it sounds a little funny, but different towns have different things. Sometimes it's a 2-to-1 ratio. Again, it really depends on what the town is looking for in their guidelines. Of course, now that talks about developing the actual structure. You're also going to want to have your MEPs. That's your mechanical, electrical, and plumbing engineers. These are the guys that are going to be running all the wires and the cables and the piping through the property. They all will work together. Oftentimes, when you hire an architect or you hire a civil engineer, they will let you know that they usually work with a particular group of men and women or a particular company. And oftentimes, this comes as a package. So most of the time when you're doing the work, you're going to find one professional who's going to lead you to others. Now you have to do your homework and make sure you like them, but I don't expect you to be calling a mechanical engineer, an electrical engineer, a plumbing engineer. That's usually that's usually something that comes, as I said, as a package. If you pick a reputable company, they have done work with a standard set of companies. They have guys they go to, they like guys. You will hear the term land planner. That's not really of your concern at this point. That's more when you're really building a subdivision or a large scale city project. So I wouldn't worry about that, but if you hear it, you know what it is. And then obviously, property managers once it's built, and general contractors. So once you go to your land use attorney, and you've hired your architect and you have all of your engineers, they come up with the design for the building. Again, this is only if you are building the design, or the other option is you can get the approvals for the design and advertise it, and you can try to have someone else build it. Tough to do if you have another property on site. Much easier to do if you bought a piece of land and now you're going to get the approvals to build, let's say, a multifamily building. You can now sell that piece of land, which you may have purchased for $1 million. If you got the approvals, let's say, to put 50 units on it, that same piece of land with the approvals may be worth $6 million, and the completed project may be worth $25 million. I'm just using big, rough, facetious numbers, but you kind of get the idea. If you're going to put a structure on a piece of land as a pure development play, you don't have to construct the building to sell it. You can sell it with approvals. Obviously, you make more when the building is up, because now you're going off of the rent roll and the final value. But some guys are investors, and all they do is they purchase land and they get approvals for things, and then they flip it. And the benefit there is the person that's buying it, all they have to do is get the building permits, and they bring their machines and they start building. You've essentially done all the work for them. They're going to get a set of plans that says, hey, we put 50 units on here. They have to be this big, this tall, this high. This is the parking, and they go in and do it. That is a business in itself. You can do that as well. But assuming that you're getting the plans approved and building the building yourself, once you have those approvals, you're going to want to hire a general contractor, and that general contractor is going to manage all the subcontractors. So the general contractor will hire the plumber, the electrician. All right, he's going to be hiring the masons. If you have steel, he's going to be hiring the steel, the iron workers. All right, so the general contractor is your liaison really to all the subcontractors. You don't want to be the general contractor. There are guys that, and women as well, that like to be the general contractor. They like to have control of the subcontractors. You can definitely do that. You really have to understand timing and when those contractors need to be on site and what order they need to be in, really to kind of master that. Just think of an easier way of thinking about that is if we were renovating a home and we needed to redo the electrical, we needed to paint it, we needed to sand the floors. Well, which guy comes in first? Who comes in last? Can they be there at the same time? And what happens if there's a conflict? What do you do? So again, I would always hire, for the first couple of go-arounds, either partner with someone who has done it before, or hire a general contractor that you've researched, you've seen completed projects, you know what they've done, and you feel comfortable with them. All right, guys, so these are the professionals that you will need, whether you are doing a ground-up development or you are adding a development to your property. You're adding a self-storage building, you're adding a small apartment building, you're adding an office building, you're adding a retail component, building another warehouse, etc. Again, the only niche I'll say is there are some users out there, especially in the retail game, that you don't need to do that, and you can just, as we discussed, ground lease them the space. Okay, so again, hey, I have an acre available, I'd like $100,000 for that acre. Here you go, you build your building, you do everything to the site. Obviously, as the owner, you have to give them and agree to a time to do that. They may have 12 months, they may have 18 months, whatever it is in your area. All right, guys, it's been fun. Catch you on the next one. Keep hunting.